We're to provide independent clinical advice on mental health, psychological and psychiatric matters, and we're drawing a whole range of different sources of information, the interview with the patient, collateral information from others, witness statements, and of course the medical records, and putting that into a report addressing the legal team's questions and translating our clinical understanding into something meaningful for the courts and for the legal team, obviously with our duty to guide the court as our first priority. There are a range of different areas of legal practice where we can be of benefit. Capacity and fitness to plead mental health is often key to understanding how someone's mental health condition interacts with their ability to understand and follow the process, the legal process, and whether someone is actually fit to plead as a result of that in criminal cases. Personal injury cases, psychiatrists also have an important role to play where there are psychological consequences of an injury or trauma or something else that their liability might have been accepted for. So we're drawing on all of that through the assessment and putting that into the report and trying to unpick how much of something it can be ascribed on the balance of probabilities to a specific injury or trauma or whatever it may be, and weighing up, where do these other factors sit in on that and guiding the courts and the legal teams on that. Another really important area that I work is in clinical negligence. So like any area of medicine, sadly things can and do go wrong at times. So advising on what a reasonable clinician may have done, in those similar circumstances, but also drawing on the evidence, drawing on the different guidelines, and often there are kind of multiple overlapping guidelines produced by different bodies for specific areas, conditions, etc. And then the trusts and healthcare organizations will often have their own standard operating procedures that they're trying to follow. So you're drawing on all that and saying, what would it have been reasonable to have done in those circumstances? Were there failings here? And if there were, what might that have led to? Is there any kind of causation? And obviously you're addressing the points that the legal team have asked you to focus on, and specific questions within that as well. Liaison psychiatry is the branch of psychiatry which deals with both the mind and the body and how conditions affect both the mind and body and overlap. So we might be talking about physical health conditions which give rise to mental health conditions. We might be talking about mental health conditions where physical conditions are also occurring, or physical symptoms are also occurring. And also conditions where you actually get kind of both sets of symptoms happening. So liaison psychiatrists generally work in medical settings, in acute medical hospitals, or sometimes in hospital outpatient clinics. And there you can see a whole range of stuff. So we have to be generalists as well as specialists, because you're seeing depression, anxiety, psychosis, self-harm, really whatever comes through in A&E. And on the medical wards, you're assisting the medical teams with those. Physical symptoms where both the mind and the body are involved are actually incredibly common. About 1 in 4 people who see their GP are coming to their GPs with physical symptoms which are absolutely real, don't have a clear organic cause, and the causation is complex. We know a lot about the risk factors for those kinds of symptoms. So we know that things that have happened in the past impact on one's risk of developing those kinds of symptoms in the future. And those can be split into things which are kind of biological, psychological, or social. So I'm thinking about someone's other medical conditions, their family history, their upbringing, other stresses that have happened in their lives, and physical health issues, medication, etc., and drawing on all of that. There can sometimes be triggers, can be psychological, those can be physical triggers, but there doesn't have to be a trigger. And then you get factors which might be part of the like vicious cycles, which can kind of keep the symptoms going. So when we're thinking about causation, there is a lot to unpick, and that is an area that I think it's really important to have expert advice on. And often there's a lot of uncertainty, so we're kind of weighing these different factors up on the balance of probabilities, particularly in personal injury cases, trying to understand what can be ascribed to a particular trauma or an injury, what may be the result of other factors or someone's kind of pre-existing risks. But the approaches to help people need to draw on both medical disciplines and psychological or rehabilitative approaches. I specialise in persistent physical symptoms. I work in a national clinic, so I work very closely with neuropsychiatrists, and I trained in neuropsychiatry as well. I also do a lot of teaching for neuropsychiatry courses, particularly on physical symptoms in other areas, things like chronic pain, fatigue, etc. So there's a lot of overlap between liaison psychiatry and neuropsychiatry. So liaison psychiatrists, I think, can be really important where there are conditions involving both the mind and the body, because those conditions are often complex. There's a lot going on in terms of risk factors. So unpicking that, translating that into a meaningful report and advice for legal teams and for the court can be really important. And I guess we're both generalists in that we see a really wide range of mental health problems, but we can also be very specialist in terms of those complex physical symptoms like functional neurological disorders and chronic pain, those kinds of conditions where trauma or injury may have been involved, but there's a lot of other risk factors to unpick. And we're also experts in capacity and weighing up, because that's what we do all the time on the medical wards, or a lot of the time. We're supporting medical teams with weighing up, does someone have the ability to understand this decision-making process, and what can we do to support them with that? And that has obvious implications for what happens in a trial or a legal setting. So there's another important area where we can advise there.